మేడం అమ్ములు సిస్టర్ చక్కగా కూర్చున్నారు, మీరు అలా కూర్చోండి.
Hello, Murali. Resource person have joined. Kindly check whether resource person has joined.
Yes, sister.
Then we shall start Tamil. We can start the program.
Sister, bite uన్నారు.
Call her. We will start. Sir, good afternoon, sir. Anjali Reddy garu. Shall we start the webinar? Okay. Thank you.
A pleasant evening to all. On behalf of the management of JMJ College for Women Tenali, I, Dr. Sister Amul Mary, the head of the Department of Computer Science, gladly welcome you all for this one-week national webinar cum FDP on political institutions and Indian democracy. Before we commence the sessions, let us raise our hearts and minds in prayer, seeking the blessings from God, the Creator, through prayer song.
If we call to him, he will answer us. If we run to him, he will run to us. If we lift our hands, he will lift us up. Come now, praise his name, all ye saints of God. Sing for joy. Oh, sing for joy to God, our strength. Oh, sing for joy to God, our strength, our strength. Draw near to him, he is here with us. Give him your love, he's in love with us. He will heal our hearts, he will cleanse our hands. If we rend our hearts, he will heal our land. Yes, he will. Oh, say.
Dear participants, before we commence the sessions, I would like to give you a few instructions. Please mute your audio and video throughout the webinar in order to avoid inconveniences. If you have any queries to the resource person during the presentation, please post your queries in the chat box. The queries and questions will be clarified at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your kind cooperation. I now cordially welcome Dr. Sister Teresa Magadi, the correspondent, Dr. Sister Shaini KP, the principal of our college, today's resource person and eminent speaker, Dr. V. Anjireddy sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Acharya Nagarjuna University, and all the participants across the country to this webinar cum faculty development organized by Department of Political Science, JNJ College for Women, Tenali. It is a great pleasure for me to introduce today's resource person, Dr. V. Anjireddy, who will be discussing on the topic an evaluation of competing conceptions in Indian nationhood. Dr. Anjireddy is currently working as Assistant Professor, Department of Political Science and Public Administration, Acharya Nagarjuna University, Nagarjuna Nagar. He completed his studies at Osmania University and Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has 29 years of experience as Assistant Professor at Acharya Nagarjuna University. He has participated in national, international seminars, conferences, workshops, and presented many papers in national and international journals, published books, and shared his knowledge through invited talks. He also guided many research scholars. We are happy to have you, sir, in our midst. I now invite Dr. Anjireddy, sir, to enlighten the participants with your knowledgeable insights. Over to you, sir. Sir, can't hear you.
Sir, please unmute, sir. Anjali, sir. Please unmute, sir.
Sir, please unmute, sir. We are not able to hear you. Ask Visradama to make a call.
Madam is calling, sister.
మీ వాయిస్ కరెక్ట్ చేశారు అన్మిట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు.
Murali, just to help, sir.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Little more raise.
Yeah. Am I audible to you?
Yes,
Am I
yeah,
audible
yes,
to
sir.
you?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it okay? My voice. Is it okay? My voice.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
So should I start?
Yes. Please
Should I start?
Yeah,
Yes,
continue,
sir.
sir. You can continue.
Okay. So let me congratulate the management of JMP College as well as the faculty of the Department of Political Science in initiating a webinar on political institutions and Indian democracy. It's a good attempt on the part of the college to initiate any kind of academic activity which generates some kind of a serious discussion on the broader aspects of political theory. Before I go into the details of the topic, the interest that the college has taken is really one should appreciate. So let me come to the topic. So Nenu, ఇవాళ మాట్లాడబోతున్నటువంటి అంశం ఏమిటంటే భారత జాతి రాజ్య భావనపై ఉన్నటువంటి భిన్న రాజకీయ దృక్పథాలని అనడం అనేది నా ఉద్దేశం. అంటే గత 4 శతాబ్దాలుగా రాజ్యం అనే ఒక నూతన భావన ఆధునిక లక్షణాలని సంతరించుకోవటం అనేది పాశ్చాత్య ప్రపంచంలో జరిగింది. అంటే అంతకు ముందున్నటువంటి రాజ్యానికి భిన్నంగా 17వ శతాబ్దం నుండి పాశ్చాత్య ప్రపంచంలో రాజ్యం యొక్క నిర్మాణంలోనూ రాజ్యం యొక్క స్వభావంలోనూ ఒక మౌలికమైనటువంటి మార్పుని మనం గమనించవచ్చు. అదేమిటంటే రాజ్యం అనేది ఆ రాజ్యంలో నివసించేటువంటి ప్రజానీకంపై అత్యున్నత పాలనాధికారాన్ని కలిగి ఉండటం అనేది రాజ్యం యొక్క మౌలిక లక్షణంగా ఉండాలి. అంటే ది స్టేట్ ఈస్ సావరెన్ అథారిటీ విచ్ ఎక్సర్సైజెస్ ultimate power over citizens and subjects as it acts independently of other states. That is the distinguishing feature of modern state from the medieval state. I think ఈ ఆధునిక రాజ్యం అనేది మరో ముఖ్యమైనటువంటి లక్షణాన్ని కూడా ఐరోపాలో సంతరించుకోవటం మనం చూస్తాం. అదేమిటంటే ఈ ఆధునిక రాజ్యం యొక్క భౌగోళిక సరిహద్దులనేవి ఆ రాజ్యంలో నివసించే ప్రజల యొక్క సాంస్కృతిక చిహ్నాలకి అది సరిపోవాలి. అంటే అర్థం ఏమిటంటే ప్రతి సాంస్కృతిక మానవ సమూహం ఒక ప్రత్యేకమైనటువంటి భౌగోళిక హద్దులతో కూడినటువంటి రాజ్యాన్ని కలిగి ఉండటమే జాతి రాజ్యం యొక్క లక్షణం. అంటే సాంస్కృతిక సరిహద్దులు భౌగోళిక సరిహద్దులు ఏకం కావటమే ఆధునిక జాతి రాజ్యం యొక్క మౌలిక లక్షణంగా మనం చూడవచ్చు. అంటే దీనికి బీజాలనేవి 17వ శతాబ్ద కాలంలో ముఖ్యంగా 1648వ సంవత్సరంలో జరిగినటువంటి ట్రెటీ ఆఫ్ వెస్ట్ఫాలియా అనేటువంటి ఒక ఒప్పందంలో ఈ జాతి రాజ్య భావనకి ఆమోదం మనం చూడవచ్చు. అంటే ఒక భూభాగంలో నివసించే ఒక ప్రత్యేక సాంస్కృతిక సమూహం స్వతంత్రమైనటువంటి రాజ్యాన్ని కలిగి ఉండటం అనేది ఒక హక్కుగా ఉండటం సమంజసమైనదే. అంటే ప్రతి సాంస్కృతిక మానవ సమూహం ఒక స్వతంత్రమైనటువంటి రాజ్యాన్ని కలిగి ఉండటం ద్వారానే ఆ సమూహం తన ఉనికిని కాపాడుకోవడంతో పాటు ఆ సమూహం తన యొక్క అత్యున్నత స్థితిలో ఎదగటానికి ఈ ఆధునిక రాజ్యం ద్వారా మాత్రమే సాధ్యం అవుతుంది. అంటే ప్రతి సాంస్కృతిక సమూహం యొక్క అత్యున్నత వికాసం అనేది అది ఏర్పరచుకునేటువంటి రాజ్య వ్యవస్థ ద్వారా మాత్రమే ఆచరణ సాధ్యం అవుతుందన్నటువంటి భావనే ఆధునిక జాతి రాజ్య భావన ఏర్పడటానికి ఆ క్రమంలో అది క్రమంగా పాశ్చాత్య ప్రపంచంలో ఆమోదతని సాధించటానికి ఆ తర్వాత 18వ శతాబ్దంలో అది ముఖ్యంగా ఫ్రెంచ్ విప్లవం అనంతరం అది సామాన్య ప్రజానీకం యొక్క ఆలోచనల్లో అది అంతర్భాగం కావడంతో ఈ ఆధునిక జాతి రాజ్య భావన అనేది 20వ శతాబ్దం వచ్చేసరికల్లా విశ్వజనీన భావనగా, అంటే కేవలం అది పాశ్చాత్య ప్రపంచానికి మాత్రమే కాకుండా మొత్తం ప్రపంచ మానవాళిని ఈ రాజకీయ భావన ఆకర్షించటంలో తన సాఫల్యతని మనం చూడవచ్చు. సో అందువల్ల మనకి ఆధునిక పాశ్చాత్య రాజనీతి శాస్త్రంలో ఈ ఈ ఆధునిక జాతి రాజ్య భావన ఉన్నటువంటి విశ్వజనీయత బహుశా
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me. Please tell me English, sir. Out of state, sir. Very state, sir. Tamil Nadu and.
I will.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So the nation state has achieved its universal identity by the end of 19th century because the state and nation are identical, where the aspirations of the nation will be realized through the institutions of the modern state. So state is an important instrument for the realization of the aspirations of the nation. Hence, every homogeneous cultural community should have an independent statehood, so that then only that cultural community will aspire and realize its distinctive identity through the instrument of the state. That is the essence of nation as it evolved during the course of 18th and 19th centuries. But the significance of the nation state lies precisely what kind of elements go into the constitution of nation is an important feature. No doubt, nation is mere a cultural community, or nation is a politically organized community on the basis of a number of other civic elements. So from 18th century onwards, in European political history, there are two competing conceptions for nationhood. One is a civic identity, where the rights of the individual, popular sovereignty, as well as the rule of law, and during the course of 19th and early 20th century, even the democratic element became part of the constitution of civic nation. That nation should be based on the principles of individual rights and principles of democracy. Whereas the other competing conception for nationhood is premised on cultural exclusivity. Only the specific features of that particular community is the basis for constituting a community into a nation. So cultural exclusivity is the premise on which the alternative paradigm of nationhood is proposed. And there is a long history of debate among the political scientists whether nation should be based on cultural identity or nation should be based on civic identity. This is the crux of the question: how do we define a nation? So in political theory, the nation is always a contested concept. Even today, you don't have any a consensus among the political scientists what exactly constitutes the nation. So it is always a contested concept even today. But when it comes to the question of India, what the same ideological contestation had occurred and continues to go on even today. So how the people of India should become a nation? So that is the question that was raised right from the 19th century onwards, when there is a popular movement against the British rule in India. Actually, the origin of the movement lies in the emergence of educated Western middle class who were influenced by the Western political theory. And in fact, they are the pioneering leadership which channelized the energies of Indian people against the oppression of British colonial rule. So the ideology of Indian national movement, which fought against the British rule in India, is primarily derived from Western liberalism. So the whole national movement, right from late 19th century until India got independence from British rule, the ideology which motivated large sections of the Indian society to join into anti-colonial British rule is primarily derived on the principles of self-rule, that Indians should have equal representation in the legislative bodies of the colonial state. They should be treated with due respect, and in fact, they should be given the same kind of rights that the British citizens enjoy, and the same norms should be followed by the colonial state when it comes to the question of Indians. So if we examine the content of Indian nationalism, right from 1818 onwards till we got independence, the content and the ideology of the Indian national movement is primarily a civic nationalism. A civic nationalism which brought the people of India into one single large movement which fought against the British rule for an independent democratic state. And finally, we succeeded in getting freedom in the sense of a democratic state. So an important element that brought the people of India into one single homogeneous movement is primarily the ideology of liberal nationalism, which brought the people of India into a one political community. So when we took upon the responsibility of framing the constitution to constitute the people of India into a sovereign nation state, what guided the founding fathers of the Constituent Assembly when they deliberated for almost 2 years and 9 months? So if we examine the debates of the Constituent Assembly, we will find the entire discussion and substance of those debates centered on Western liberal ideas that individual is the basis of Indian state. Every individual should have certain rights which are inalienable, and apart from recognizing every individual as a member of the nation state, it also recognizes certain communities which are minorities in the sense they have limited number. So those communities which are linguistically and religiously, if they constitute less than 50% of the population, then these communities should be recognized as minorities, and the Constitution of India has given them enough protection through fundamental rights to protect their cultural identity. So apart from fundamental rights, if we see the substance of Indian Constitution, it is nothing but the principles of liberal democracy which found its place in the constitutional law of India. So an important feature of the Indian Constitution is the continuation of the ideas that we find in the Indian national movement, which find its legal expression in the Constitution of India. So even after we got independence, it is the Constitution of India which provided the framework for the state to play an important role in terms of realizing the aspirations of the people. So that is the reason why the Indian Constitution is slightly different in the sense this Constitution enables the state to intervene in the society itself. So an important feature of the Indian Constitution is to enable the Indian state to intervene and also reconstitute the Indian society on the principles of Indian constitutional framework. So that is an extremely important distinguishing feature of Indian Constitution in the sense that the state is an extremely important instrument in reconstituting the Indian society itself. Precisely, Indian society is based on certain norms which are not conducive for the realization of civic nationalism. As the people of India, if they want to be modern, if they want to become the citizens of modern nation state, the society in which they are embedded should be reconstituted so that they would become an independent citizen of the state, so that his association with other individuals is mediated on the basis of citizenship alone. So that is an important feature of Indian Constitution, which allows the state to intervene in the reconstitution of the Indian society itself. So if we examine the last 7 decades of democratic role in India, you find the state played an extremely important role in not only reconstituting the Indian society on the basis of Western modernity, but also this provide the spirit of the Constitution as well as the role of the Indian state played an extremely important role in making the people of this country into a politically unified community. So, for the first time in the history of India, the state played an extremely interventionist role in providing the basic necessary legal framework as well as providing the material needs of the people, which provided the necessary political unity among the people of India, which is the premise for Indian nation. So, what we find both in the colonial as well as in the post-colonial period, the basis of Indian nation should be based on the civic identity alone. The principles of civic identity should be the basis for Indian nationhood. That is the ideological framework which is the dominant trend of Indian nationhood for the last 100 years. So the other competing conception which question the civic nationhood in India is also based on cultural ethnic nationalism. So it also, this cultural nationalism is not an indigenous idea. In this cultural civic nationalism is rooted in the Western cultural nationalism of the Italian or German variety. So the second strand, which we call as cultural nationalism or ethnic cultural nationalism, had its underpinnings in the ideology of Italian and German nationalisms, which are primarily culturally rooted ethnic communities. How do we explain it? So the content of cultural ethnic nationalism lies in its exclusivity, in the sense its own identity is paramount and its own identity is premised on negating the other. So the cultural ethnic nationalism is premised on the principle of exclusivity, and also it negates the other. The other is the other cultural, it identifies other cultural communities as their rivals. So right from the beginning, the ethnic cultural nationalism is primarily exclusive in its orientation, and its statehood is an extension of its cultural ethnicity. That the state should reflect the will of that particular culturally based ethnic community itself. So that is the reason why you have violence in Italy as well as in Germany, because because in these two states, the ideology of cultural nationalism is defended by by negating the other cultural communities to live a harmonious life with them. So that is the reason why we have First World War as well as Second World War, in which the cultural nation played an extremely important role in uniting the people of Italy as well as people of Germany against other nations. So the cultural nationalism has this element, that is, when it defines the other as its enemy, and it goes to any extent of negating the existence of other, that is, the other cultural communities' right to existence. That is the reason why they fought many wars in order to dominate other communities, because it is privileged in the sense it alone has the cultural superiority, in the sense that it can be an imperial power. So that is the reason why Italian as well as Roman nationalism generated an ideology of imperialism, in the sense that itself is rooted in the privileging its own culture and negating the other cultures. So this ideology found its echo in the Indian national movement itself, which found its echo in Hindu Mahasabha as well as in Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, as well as in the Muslim League. So both these parties, that is the Hindu Mahasabha, later the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, these two political bodies, right from the beginning itself, they articulated a different kind of Indian nation, precisely on the same lines of Italian and German nationalism. So you can find its hypothesis in Vinayak Damodar Savarkar's classic text, that is Hindutva. So the text of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, that is Hindutva, is an expression of this kind of cultural nationalism. So the cultural nationalism that the Savarkar has exposed in the text is based that Hindus in India constitute a different community whose cultural exclusivity should be the basis of Indian nationhood. So Savarkar defined the other religious communities as the other of Hindus. So the Hindus are defined not exclusively in religious idiom, but in terms of cultural idiom, which is identical in certain respects with religious ideology itself. So what we find in Savarkar's text is the enunciation of the principles of Hindu nationalism. You find its highest expression in the text of Hindutva, written by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. So though this ideology at the time of independence is is not at all popular because it is exclusivist in its nature. So because of the hegemony of the civic nationalism during the colonial as well as the initial decades of the post-colonial period, the cultural nationalism of Savarkar's variety remained as dominant till the 1970s. Only from 1970s onwards, you find the gradual consolidation of Hindu cultural nationalism as the dominant ideology. And in fact, this ideology played an extremely important role in hegemonizing the people into a politically organized community. So, Rama Janmabhoomi movement, that is the mighty Rama's birthplace, is supposed to be in Ayodhya, where a masjid was built by Baba. So, in order to rebuild the temple, it mobilized the people exclusively on cultural idiom against the Babri Masjid. So, this is a popular movement forged for almost 2 to 3 decades, which enabled the people to become a politically organized community, which ultimately allowed Bharatiya Janata Party to come to power by the early 21st century. So the emergence and consolidation of Bharatiya Janata Party into a national party, and in fact the party that came to power both at the center as well as many states, is a reflection of the consolidation of this kind of cultural nationalism that has gained its popularity for the last 3 decades of Indian democracy. So, how do we explain the consolidation of Hindu nationalism as the dominant ideology and the weakening of civic nationalism during the last 3 to 4 decades? So, this is extremely important subject. I will only go into the crux of for the consolidation of cultural nationalism lies in the weakening of the ideology of civic nationalism in the post-independence period. Why did it happen? The leadership, especially the Congress leadership, mistake that there is no ideological contestation, there is no ideological need to continue the mobilization of people on the principles of civic identity. In fact, the political leadership of the Congress Party, which ruled the country for almost 4 decades after independence, it thought only on the basis of certain economic policies alone would further cement the process of civic identity without the necessary ideological contestation. So you cannot sustain the idea of civic identity exclusively on the institutions of the state itself, because nationalism is primarily an political ideology. So if you want to sustain the sense of civic identity among the people of India, you have to continue the ideological struggle even after independence. If you don't continue the ideological struggle, then the ideological condensation slips into the other political forces. That is the reason why Congress party slowly became a party which doesn't have any ideological elements to fight against the cultural nationalism of BJP. So in a country like India, the state alone cannot sustain the sense of civic identity only on the basis of certain economic or political policies alone. So, apart from continuing the economic and political policies, which are no doubt enable the people of this country to exercise their rights as well as to meet their material needs, the people also need certain coherent ideology itself, which the Congress party failed to provide. So that is an extremely important reason why the Congress party failed to sustain the ideological contestation against the ideology of cultural nationalism, which played an extremely important role in consolidating the people of India on a different terrain, which the Bharatiya Janata Party has succeeded. So now we have to debate as well as diagnose which way will go. So if we, in a country like India where diversity is the essence of Indian civilization, if we want to sustain the diversity of Indian civilization, the only way you can do is to sustain the civic nationalism itself, because it allows the multiplicity of identities. It allows the diversities of cultures to flourish. Only civic nationalism allows enough space for diversity to flourish and also sustain multiple identities which India has sustained for centuries. So if we want to sustain the Indian civilization on its ethos, the only way we can do is to regenerate the ideology of civic nationalism, which is the basis of Indian nationhood, which again should become the continuing basis for Indian nationhood. Or if we fail to do that, and if we allow ethnic cultural nationalism should become the basis of Indian nationhood, we are going to lose our diversity and our plurality. And if we lose these two, then what happens? What happens is we are not going to sustain as a community of people. So if the people of India if they have to sustain as a civilization based on diversity, the only way is to sustain the civic nationalism, which negates the ideological basis of cultural exclusivism. So I will end my presentation with the premise that Indian civilization sustained for centuries on the premise of protecting the diversity of cultures. So protecting the diversity of cultures should be the essence of Indian nationhood. As long as we sustain that, India will remain as a nation. So what we need today is we should allow the plurality and diversity of our cultures to sustain so that India as a nation will sustain forever. That's how I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my ideas on Indian nationhood. Thank you, JMD College, for giving me the opportunity to share my ideas on Indian nationhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your outstanding presentation on the topic, an evaluation of competing conceptions of Indian nationhood. Thank you for enlightening us on the distinguished feature of Indian Constitution, which enables the state to intervene and reconstitute on the principle of Indian Constitution. Also, you said cultural ethnic nationalism based on the principle of exclusivity, negating the other cultural communities, that is, right to existence. And protecting the diversity of culture should be the prime aim. So, thank you for your presentation, sir. We are grateful to you for your availability to share your valuable thoughts and insights with us. Thank you once again, sir. Dear participants, we have come to the end of 5th day webinar. I request all the participants to clarify your doubts and queries on the topic and evaluation of competing conceptions of Indian nationhood.
So let us know any questions are there from the participants? Any doubt or any clarifications? Okay. I think there are no questions. I think we can conclude. Yeah, Juhi.
Good evening, sir.
Okay.
Sir, we have seen an unfortunate turn from civic nationalism to cultural ethnic nationalism in Indian democracy. So, how do we reinvigorate and regenerate the civic nationalism that has existed in Indian culture for centuries to protect the diversity?
No. Yeah. So the essence of cultural civic nationalism is precisely the rights of the individuals as well as the substantive democracy. So if we protect the rights of the individual as well as if we realize the substantive principles of democracy that will sustain civic nationalism in India, because of cultural diversity, you cannot unite the people of India on cultural exclusivity. So the only way you can unite the people of India is precisely on political grounds alone. Precisely if you protect the rights of every individual through a democratic state, and also if the democratic state really expresses the will of the people or a period of time, that alone will sustain the unity among the people of this country. So only by deepening democracy and protecting the rights of the citizen will strengthen the political unity of the people, which in turn sustain the Indian nationhood on the basis of civic identity itself.
Okay. I think Jiggy got the point. Right.
Any more
Anybody?
Yes,
questions?
ma'am. Thank you, sir.
I think if there are no questions, we can conclude the session.
My heartfelt thanks to the correspondent, Dr. Sister Teresa Magade, Principal, Dr. Sister Shaini, the Speaker of the Day, Dr. Anjireddy Sir, and all the participants. Thank you for your active and valuable participation in the 5th day of the webinar. I would like to wind up this day with a few announcements to the participants. Dear participants, feedback form will be sent to your registered mail ID. All those who are attending the webinar and filling up the feedback form every day will receive the e-certificate at the end of 1 week National Webinar Kum FDP. So once again, I thank you all for making this day webinar very effective and successful. Hope to meet you all for the 6th day of the webinar tomorrow. Thank you.
Sir Anjireddy sir, thank you so much for your valuable insights and wonderful session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you.